Okay, welcome to Flamingo Park. Today we have a special guest, Corina Crysler, an evolutionary astrologer and mentor. Corina will be a special guest at the upcoming Serpent's Path retreat held in Egypt this October 2025. Welcome, Corina.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So for just a little background context, I just wanted to share that how I came about to meeting Karina, and I was gifted a reading with Karina in January of 2024. Little did I know that it would start a story of going on a 2-week retreat with her to Egypt, and now hosting one with her and her husband, their company, Jeb and Newt, with Karina being a special guest. And what I absolutely adore about Karina the most is her clarity of self. I think most people spend a lifetime getting to know who they are. And for me, Karina, it feels like you really have a good grasp on that, who you are. And your offerings are so unique and special, but most of all, real and relevant. So, um, just to start off, what would you say has been the golden thread through your life, the deeper force that's always kind of guided you, even when things are uncertain?
That's a big question. I guess just like trusting how I feel about something. I think I've been pretty brave in my decisions. I've had many pivots. I've started anew several times. And it was all sort of like an energy of a calling. And I had this even when I was really, really young, and I just didn't really understand it, of course. But I think when it boils down to it, I've always sort of searched for um, mystery, for romance, for information. I guess I've always been a seeker. So that has been probably the thing that has pulled me along my path and helped me make these big decisions was, that longing I had to find something.
Which then kind of makes me think of, you know, you discovering evolutionary astrology and,
Yeah.
how did you find it, or should I say, how did it find you?
Yeah, so I did not find it before I was an astrologer. It was an interesting way because I read very differently. I'm kind of self-taught. I did a program with an astrologer that was more on purpose and building up like my business and stuff, but she used astrology as her key to helping me. And as soon as I saw the birth chart, I was like, instantly, my brain went to like patterns.
Hmm.
And after the program, I was always doing like moon circles, and my business was moonshine. I was always followed the moon and the cycles and did a lot on herbs and, a lot on the goddess stuff, but it didn't connect it all to the birth chart per se.
Hmm.
So when I started, I kind of immediately saw patterns. I saw pain really easily. And I just started practicing. I took a fundamental course that was like not my thing really, but gave me like the groundwork to start. And then it wasn't until I was introduced to Mark Jones, did I realize what I was doing. And he is an evolutionary. He is like, to me, as good as it gets, in terms of astrologers. He's a psychologist as well. And he's super brilliant. He's a brilliant, brilliant person. And it wasn't until I saw his work that I was like, oh, I kind of do that too. And then um, made the realization or had the realization that what I was doing was evolutionary astrology.
And how would you, I'm gonna look him up after this. I'm very curious to check Mark Jones out because I'm interested. And what would you say evolutionary astrology is?
It's basically looking at the cycles of your evolution. So it works more with the outer planets
Okay.
because they have longer cycles and they are further away from the sun. So they tend to hold more like subconscious patterns, past life information, and patterns. And the way I kind of look at it is okay, so what have we come here to evolve from? You know, what is the meaning of this lifetime in terms of, um, I don't want to use the word lesson, but, you know, what is the thing I've come here to evolve from? So when I read someone's chart, um, that's exactly what I'm focusing on. Okay, where are they in their cycle? And how can I help them change the cycle or change the pattern? And one of the things I often say is that you don't want to come back and do this again. So what do we need to do now in this life, in this moment, exactly, that can help you evolve from this pattern that you're repeating? And that it's transformational. It's huge. You know, it's a huge sort of pivot for people to kind of see, oh, I do this over and over and over again. So of course nothing changes if I don't change the pattern. So that tends to be what I focus on. And like I said, I see pain very easily in charts. So often it's, you know, a pretty strong healing process to it as well.
That's really cool. I think that's good context for listeners to understand that it's kind of not your average astrology type of a reading, you know? Um, so would you say that there was kind of a moment in your life where you felt like it cracked you open onto the path that you're on now, like a catalyst or a crossroads or some kind of calling that changed everything for you?
I've had two big ones. One was losing my best friend at 27. She died really fast of pancreatic cancer, and we were like inseparable. And when she was in her last moments, she had said to me, You have to live for both of us." And she was wild and free and didn't give a shit what anybody thought. You know, she was exactly who she was. And I was always shy and not fearful, but I was such a feeler. Like, I'm such a feeler. I'm such a sensitive person. And I didn't really understand myself at that time in my life of like how much I was connected to. So she was like the person that would always help me move past that.
Mm,
And so when she passed, I had like this, I have to live for both of us. So I have to be brave now and I have to get out there and show up. And it was literally, she passed in October, and then literally that next March was when I literally went to this huge businessman from Paris, France, and told him what he was doing wrong with his business and told him that I knew how to fix it, basically. Not fix it, but like elevate it.
mhm.
And it changed everything. He said yes. Like I had to do a business proposal at 28 and I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew the concept really well. And I grew a huge company, huge international company because of of that experience. Um, and I would say the second one was like losing everything when COVID hit. I lost the business I had built and I had to start um, over again. And that was, they both like opened me up to a newer, stronger version of myself that I had to see and find.
I love that. I love that. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit then about more of your personal journey and
Uh-huh.
background. So you're in Egypt right now, from Canada
Egypt.
to Egypt. Um,
Yeah.
can you share the pivotal moments that led you from life in Canada to establishing roots in Egypt?
Yeah, so I went on a 3-month pilgrimage through France in 2022 and really worked on some of the healing I had to do around the masculine energy. Um, I was single for quite a long time and didn't even knew like I didn't even think it existed. I had wonderful men in my life. I dated a lot. I had a lot of fun. Great father, great brothers, great uncles. I had such strong men in my life, but in my practice, I hear a lot of pain. So I think I was carrying a lot of the wounding that a lot of women carry.
Mm.
And sort of went through a huge breakthrough around this in France. And in France, I met a woman that was doing an Egypt retreat. And I was like, well, I have to go because I had wanted to go forever. The Egyptian mysteries have been like something I've been, looking into and researching since I was a teenager. So, so I booked the retreat and she's like, there's someone that you might be interested in. And I was like, whatever, I was like, I don't want to meet anyone in Egypt. I don't want to, like, I'm so over this. I'm like focused on, and, moving forward. And then sure enough, Hakeem was the tour leader of this retreat, and that's where we met. And we fell in love incredibly fast, got married in 16 days. I don't even remember. I ask him today, even till today, I say, like, when did we actually talk about me living here, like, permanently? And he was like, well, we didn't. It was just like something, like there was no choice. It was so soulful. It was something that, like, I knew he existed, like, in the core of everything that I believe in. I knew that this man existed. Um, and I waited for him.
Mm.
And when I found him, I wasn't about to um, let anything interfere with that. So we got married, and now I live in Egypt, and we have our daughter Ruby as well, which was also something I didn't really think was meant for me. I had her quite later in life.
Oh, I love that story. It's
Yeah.
such a beautiful story. And, it's one thing to have the story, but then it's another thing, to see the two of you together. It's a whole other beautiful thing to witness. So, yeah, it's something I think a lot of people kind of hope and wish to have in their lives. And you two are both very lucky to have found each other, and it's really nice to see.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know, I mean, I understand loneliness. I was very alone for a very long time. And I think the more you are honest with yourself and authentic with what you want, and like get rid of that external noise around you of what you're supposed to do and what you think you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be with, and you just follow your path,
Hmm.
it shows up. Those things that we have this like holy longing for are meant for us. It comes sort of at the perfect time. Divine timing is really important. You have to trust it, because when we don't trust it, because often, it's easy to lose hope. So when we don't trust it, we just want to make sure we check in that, if I feel this, then it's obviously something that I see for myself.
Beautiful. So what is it like living in Egypt? Can you kind of share some misconceptions people might have, and also
Yeah.
come kind of some pleasant surprises that you've experienced?
Yeah, well, Egypt has kicked my butt, literally, on many, many levels. I am not the same person. I am the same person, but I've definitely have just so much more awareness and knowledge about myself since I've been here. I would say one of the biggest misconceptions is it's not safe.
Mm,
I think, I mean, I'm sure there's parts or there's circumstances, everywhere. But I've never been in a place where the people are nicer and more genuine and help each other. And, you know, um, the spirit of the Egyptians is just nothing I've ever experienced before. And they're passionate and they have their things, of course, but this is one thing that I am so grateful for to be in this type of community. And since living here, I've met actually I'm a part of this big women's um, community, and a lot of them there's actually a lot of Canadian Egyptians here. Um, and they're just lovely, lovely, helpful, supportive. It's a really like strong matriarchal community to be a part of. And I think also for me is like unlearning a lot.
mhm,
As North Americans, we have been programmed to be so connected to a certain system. That's one part of the world. And there's probably good parts about this, but in Egypt, I guess they've gone through so many different things as a country. So they become more of a people than, a system.
mm.
And um and that's a beautiful thing to be a part of because it's very authentic. No one really controls how they think. They think for themselves. And there's definitely parts to it that I don't love, but on a whole, it's very freeing to live here. It feels very free. And then you have all the magic, you know, as someone like myself, an astrologer who connects to past lives, who's been so connected to, women's wellness, the mysteries of the womb, the cosmic womb. This doesn't get any better than being here. You can't come here and if you surrender to what Egypt gives you, you you can't be unchanged from it because it just activates something within you that has been dormant for probably your whole life. And then once it's activated. That part of yourself, is alive. And the first time I went home to Canada after being here, I it just felt so different, you know. It
I
felt
feel
very
that.
different.
Yeah, I feel that. I felt the exact same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Canada is um, such beautiful nature, which is essentially, the foundation of the Egyptian beliefs, are that the gods and goddesses are aspects of nature. So you can connect to that energy very easily in Canada because of that. But there's no sort of culture or no legends or no belief system attached to it. Where here you have that. So it's so easy to connect to, the magic of what this earth has to offer when it's always around you and it's rooted so deeply in the culture, the everyday culture. Every day has a ritual to it on some level, which is totally the way I lived my life. But now it's just part of life. It's not me just doing it alone, you know?
I love that. So then, what would you say, and let me pronounce it, is it Jeb and Newt?
Jump and Newt. Yeah.
Jeb and Newt's Journeys. So
Yeah.
together, you co-founded Jeb and Newt's Journeys.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the mission
Yeah.
of the initiative and the experiences that you offer through it?
Yeah. So Jep and Newt, Jep is Earth and Newt is the sky. And Hakeem is, a temple worker and works with the stones and a stonemason. And I'm obviously an astrologer. So that's where we came up with Jep and Newt. And Jep and Newt is, you'll see the woman like kind of come down the sky, like touching the earth. And together they created, you know, life itself. So it's about creation, which Kim and I both are all about is understanding creation. So my husband is just the most amazing person to come to Egypt with. His family is awesome. Like like it's literally like when you go to the big house, like being in a living mystery school, and actually having him as a husband is the same thing. I feel bad for people that come to Egypt and don't do the experience with Hakeem, just because of his talent and his knowledge. And anyone who knows Hakeem would know his grandfather was very famous, one of the last, they called him one of the last wisdom keepers of ancient knowledge.
Mm.
And it's just such a different perspective when you're in the temples with him and the initiations that he facilitates. And as someone who has always worked with women and wanting to heal women, I've really watched being in his presence, like how they're first sometimes intimidated by him because they're just not used to meeting someone like him. And then being in his presence does a lot of healing for them as well. So, we really work with that sort of goddess energy because he was technically trained by his aunt. He's trained by a woman, which I love. And so we have the Roots of Isis tour, which is focusing on the goddesses in the temples and their practices. And then we're doing one, the Path of Venus in March, which is a woman's retreat and would be more of my practices in terms of the womb practices and connecting to the cosmic womb and taking some of those ancient Isis teachings as we sail along the Nile. So,
And you
so
also
yes, we offer tours, but they're very focused on that, um, on the teachings of the Great Mother and the cosmic energy around that.
and you also have the containers as well.
The containers,
The is it the kind of the year-long containers where people can,
the Cosmic Temple.
that's right, the Cosmic Temple. It's like
Yes,
a year-long kind of a,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's a course that we teach. That is basically taking the path of the wheel. So looking at the zodiac wheel and its initiations, and how the each house is connected to a netter, like an Egyptian god or goddess, and the temple that they're connected to. And that tends to bring like Hakeem and I have such different ways of how we come to essentially the same information, but it's interesting because a lot of the things that I have done my whole life, I've didn't really know where they came from, like even the book I'm writing. And then when I mention it to him, he always connects it to something here, or this is what my grandfather used to say. And so we definitely have a good way of merging both of the things that we love to do and to talk about and the knowledge that we have, but in a different process.
That is so cool and so unique, to be able to offer that. And I mean, I know speaking from my own experience that as someone who went on the Roots of Isis retreat, it was um it was an incredible life-changing journey. Um, so then in terms of like the temples and living among these ancient temples, how does residing in proximity to Egypt's ancient temples and, landscapes. How does that impact your daily rituals and spiritual practices?
Um, Sometimes it can feel like a lot. Um, because as a seeker, you're consistently looking, you see so much. And it's the same thing with Hakeem, you see so much.
Mm,
So, there's that consistency of wanting to like be connected to something, that you don't really understand,
mm,
and you want to understand it. Um, and there's always something. And one of the things that I think Egypt has taught me is like we really like don't know anything, you know? Um, and things can be written down. And I mean, the temple walls are probably one of the best, but they're in, a language that we don't really understand. But it's so hard to really know, okay, what was happening here? How was the temple used? Who was the head of the temple? It's hard to know those things. So all you can do at least this is my opinion, all you can do when you go in there is what do you feel? What is being activated within you?
mm.
Some temples you don't feel anything, some you feel like everything. Some people have huge emotional breakthroughs in certain temples, and that's the only thing I think you can do to really use and embody um, their energy, because the Egyptians lived as as above so below, so they mimicked the sky down here. All the temples are placed in very specific ley lines that also attach to the stars, and that as within so without energy is how you can use them. So how do I feel in here? What is happening in my inner world that helps me see something in the outer world? And that great mirror, that energy of the great mirror that Egypt always holds in front of you, is, I think, the best way to utilize the temple. So, what is being activated within that you can see or create on the outside, to essentially create the life that you want?
I love that. What would you say, which temple for you was the biggest activator?
Well, there's a few. Um, so the Pyramid of Giza is probably like that's when Hakeem and I remembered each other. And that's what started our relationship. And he does literally the best activation in the King's Chamber. So the King's Chamber probably had the most profound, um, like just blew up everything for me. We actually got married in the pyramid because of it. His aunt did our ceremony. Kamumbo did too. Kamumbo activated like I could not literally stop crying Kamumbo, and it was the temple that caught me by surprise. And this often happens in Egypt too. Like people have the best thing that you can do when you come here is just let go of any expectation that you have that you think is going to happen, because you just don't know.
Mhm.
And that would have been like probably the most like, oh, come on, okay, we're going to this one. I had no connection to it. I had no connection to Sobek at that time, even though a few days before someone asked me if I was afraid of crocodiles, which Sobek is the face of a crocodile. And I was like, no. And then I went to this temple, I had a total breakdown. But I would say if I could only go back to one temple, for its magic and like literally feels like home to me, is Dendera.
Okay.
Yeah, Hathor. Yeah,
Mm.
Hathor is my girl. And Dendera, there's just so much to it.
Mhm.
And I remember when I first walked into Dendera, I was really sad. And Hakeem came up to me and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Where's the water?" Because I felt like there was supposed to be water, and he was like, it's like it's turned off, but I know how to turn it on." I'm like, "Well, turn it on," but Dendera is by far, especially as an astrologer, because it has so much astrological information. And Yeah, that's by far my favorite in terms of feeling like literally this could be home. If I had any place on earth that I could pick as what feels like being home, it would be Dendera.
I love that. That's
And,
amazing. Thank you.
and
Thank
the
you. Oh, you got one more?
guard
There's one more.
no, the Guardians of Dendera though, the Guardians of Dendera, last time I went, I was with Ruby and it was hot and she cried and all the men, like the
Mhm.
guardians of the temple, brought her into this room that had air conditioning, played a movie for her, brought us water, like just so like even that energy, um, the men even in Dendera are amazing.
The protection.
The protectors. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that about you and Sobek and Kamumbo. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So, yeah.
Kamambo is you really have to pay attention. There's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot in all of the temples, but that one has um that one has a big initiation, a big one. His grandfather used to do a really cool one that you can't access the crypt anymore of where he did it, where he would do the initiation, but it's a big initiation, that one. It's probably very underrated, but it has a lot of power.
I love that. Thank you. So the Serpent's Path retreat coming in October. Karina will be hosting the Sphinx activation. Speaking of
Yep.
temples, you're leading this special activation, and can you elaborate a little bit on, the significance of this ritual and what it could entail for those who are attending?
Yeah, so it's interesting because when Hakeem and I got together, he immediately gave it to me. He's like, "This has to be done by a woman, this initiation." And I was like, "Well, what am I like, what am I supposed to do?" And he's like, "Just go and do it." So the Sphinx is a Greek word. Her name is Tefnut. That's what Hakeem's grandfather used to call her. And Tefnut is essentially the energy that's connected to primordial water. She's the moisture in the air that creates everything. So, as someone who works with creation and the cosmic womb, she's kind of my girl. So, it's a spot that um, connects to a specific constellation, which I'll save for the retreat. Um, but it connects to a specific constellation that is really important for birthing. And we can look at birthing like birthing anything, birthing yourself, birthing a new path, birthing a business, birthing a baby. So the initiation is um, around connecting to that energy and how we can harness that in that spot to kind of open that portal for creation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very cool. And what's nice about that particular one too is it's private access. So typically most people that come to Egypt, there's sort of this upper platform with a fence, and most people can really only view the Sphinx from that upper platform. But
Yeah.
in this retreat, we're able to kind of go down and right in front of the Sphinx and be right on the grounds. So it's a really special experience in that regard.
Yeah. You have to get in between her paws. Like being in front of her is it like on the platform is amazing because you can see the pyramids and it's a pretty special has a very special alignment to the middle pyramid too. Um, but there's nothing like being in between her paws. And there's a few spots that I always tell people to connect to in that area. And we never do the Sphinx without private access either, because it's like a different ball game in terms of the experience that you'll have. Um, yeah, no, she's special.
She is. So, for those who are attending the retreat, you do have the option for an a la carte add-on of an evolutionary astrology reading with Corina. And how will you use this reading, Corina, to tie this in to the retreat and guide individuals in healing and embodying their true selves?
Yeah. So I usually, before all of our retreats, any of our guests, I always want them to be best prepared for what they're about to experience. And so before they come, they'll know, okay, what is the cosmic call to action for me at this time? And how can I really utilize, okay, so if I know I'm at this part of my cycle, how can I step into that even further with the energy and the activations and initiations here? So it gives me a little bit more intel in the people too that are coming, so I can help them and understand how they might communicate or what their intuition is like, or how they might process information. But basically, I wanted to give them sort of a full picture at, okay, so um, in terms of the creation cycle itself, where are you at? Are you starting the phase? Are you ending the phase? Are you at the peak of the phase?
Mhm.
So if you do want to materialize something or co-create something in your life, this is this is the part that you're at, so we can utilize that the best. And if I do see an aspect of um, a pattern or a pain cycle or pain signature in their chart, often I'll open that up so that they can dive into it further. This is the place to do it. You have radical, radical healing here. I would have thought I was someone that was quite open and had done a lot of work on myself until I came here. And then I realized I had to unlearn a lot and I had to really look at myself in a deep way. And, I always say to make the transformational process romantic, because it can be hard, but it can also be one of the, you're here to create an incredible relationship with yourself. So if you have the pieces of the puzzle in terms of where you are now by knowing your chart and where you're at when you come on the retreat, you just have that opportunity to become that much closer to who you really are and what you're capable of and what your potential is and what you want to heal and all of it.
I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah,
I would definitely encourage people to take Karina up on this beautiful offer because it's really special.
thank
Um,
you.
so we'll close off this interview today with what is something Egypt has taught you that you don't think you could have learned anywhere else?
Huh. So it's interesting because what the first thing that came to my mind is love.
Mm.
I don't think I've experienced the type of love, um, not even close, actually, in my life that I have now. I have a daughter and a husband that are literally the most beautiful beings I've ever met. So that's on a personal level. Um, on a bigger picture level is it's the mirror, of really understanding that you are what you create. So your thoughts are your spells, your words become things, and what is being reflected back at you is something that you always need to see within yourself. So, that reality that's in front of you is something that you create. And I don't think I would have captured that lesson or those learnings anywhere else.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing all about you and about what it is you do. And I think this has been a very rich um, amount of time, especially for me. I've learned new things about you that I didn't know. So
Mm,
I appreciate and value your time and
Thank,
sharing all this with us. So
yeah, thank you. Thanks for
okay.
having me. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Thanks very much, Karina.
Thanks, guys. And I hope anyone who has the calling that wants to come to Egypt, I hope you come. You won't be disappointed, promise.
Thank you.